Hey everybody. Um, since my last video, basically the stories of what happened when I was in Army intelligence was so popular, I decided to make another video and kind of throw in three more stories. Um, the ones I decided to go with tonight are the one about how I ended up getting a commendation for valor for fighting a wildfire during the 2011 Monument Fire. The second one is how I came about eating lunch with Michelle Obama at Fort Jackson. And the third, I'm still deciding if I want to tell this story or not. But basically, how I literally had a gun pulled in front of my face and the dude pulled trigger and everything, gun jammed, and basically a miracle from God situation. But to start off, I'm gonna do the Michelle Obama one first because it happened before the Monument Fire. Whenever I went to Fort Jackson, for one, it was in the winter time, and they're really like crazy about heat stroke and everything, so they will not let you put your thermals on or any of that. So you're literally out there in 30-degree temperatures in shorts and t-shirts, doing PT at 4:30 in the morning, and basically it was just extra rough, way more rough than I even anticipated. Excuse me. And made even worse by the fact that basically you randomly get assigned drill sergeants. Most of them are basically people from other jobs in the military that just have to come and babysit kids at Fort Jackson in order to get some kind of special training or something. So to get something from the Army, you got to give, And, so like the platoon, next to our third platoon, we called them the On Their Face platoon because they had one of them drill sergeants that was just mean. I mean, it wasn't about training. It wasn't about building up soldiers. It was just mean, And every time we saw them, they were on their face doing push-ups. And that's the reason why everybody nicknamed them the On the Face platoon. And she actually got knocked up and like halfway through basic had to leave to go have a kid. And this is a different story, but and they ended up getting a replacement drill sergeant. Well, they started learning, they started training, they were doing good, and all of a sudden, about 3 weeks go by and she's back from maternity leave. And I'm going to tell you something. I have never seen so many broken hearts, like in unison. I mean, I'll never forget. And people that I went to basic with, we still talk about this today, the look on their face whenever that office door opened and she walked back out. Like, everybody in that platoon was like, oh, hell no. I mean, it was like the devil. Think about being sent to hell, getting to leave, and then the devil comes back, So, point being is that we were really lucky because even though it was harder, we had Rambo as a drill sergeant in 1st Platoon. This dude was 4 years younger than me, and at 17 years old, and see, after like week 3, you don't know none of this at first, after week 3 or 4, after you get done with red phase, which is basically them just killing you, they have a thing called icebreakers where the drill sergeants sit down and tell you about themselves and everything, and we already knew by that point that this dude was like next level. He had us doing stuff that most other platoons, wouldn't have to do till like week 16. We were doing it in week 2. Come to find out, dude was basically Rambo. At 17 years old, he got his parents to sign a waiver because, in his words, he wanted to go in the infantry and blow shit up. And he originally became a 16 Bravo, which was regular infantry. From there, he went to Pathfinder School, Airborne School, and was in the middle of Ranger School. But Ranger School actually is 4 different schools. And, like I said, you can't get nothing for free from Uncle Sam. So basically, they let him go to 2 schools. And after 2 schools, they told him, you got to go babysit kids at Fort Jackson for a year if you want us to, pay for this other, the rest of the schools. And, basically, he wasn't happy to be there, and he let us know, like, the first week, he's like, or he let us know during icebreakers, this basically, I put it basically that all he had in his life was his truck, his dog, and his Johnny Walker Red, and that's all he gives a fuck about, and that basically, the only reason why he was there was to, be able to finish Ranger School, pretty much, and that he didn't want to be here, we didn't want to be there, but we got to do, make the best of it. So, just to give you an idea, like day 3, or what was it? God, man, no, actually that was like day 7. Actually, yeah, because the first 3 days seemed like one day because we were up for 3 solid days. But anyway, so yeah, this was like day 7. They got us doing the gas chamber, and the gas chamber is just like that. You can look it up on YouTube. Basically, it's a building that they fill with smoke. Now, keep in mind, the one they show you on YouTube is so watered down. Like, our smoke was so thick that you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And they have like these brand new gas masks on. They give us these Vietnam era ghetto gas masks that don't even have proper seals and stuff. So literally, as we're walking in the building, like, we're already getting gas in our mask. You know what I'm saying? And they basically walk around and check everybody out. Like 15, 20 minutes goes by before they even let you start taking your mask off and saying the Soldier's Creed, which basically is, to make you breathe in the gas, And so we were already choking, you know what I mean? Like, so, they time it out because there's also like a lack of oxygen, factor involved, with the gas being in the air. And I'm sorry, I'm a pacer, so I'm going to pace back and forth. Something left over from the military. I just don't feel right giving speeches and sitting down. It's just weird. Same reason why you'll never see me put my hands in my pocket. But anyway, so, what you see on YouTube is very watered down. So basically, we line up for formation, and we notice out front that there's 3 buses. Okay, there's 4 platoons, 3 buses. And, already getting to know this dude by day 7, we already knew what the deal was. Everybody, all 3 platoons were going to get to take a bus because the gas chamber was like 20 miles away. Okay, it's really far away. It took us an hour to march there, and 20 minutes to do that, and then an hour to march back. So we had to literally march 20 miles to get there, and then, well, it wasn't 20 miles. I'd say more like 5 or 10. I don't know. When you're marching with a 75-pound rucksack, and see, that's another thing. Like, they got to take a bus. He tells us to go upstairs, grab our rucksacks, and fill up with gear to the equivalent of 75 pounds. And that he would be checking the rucksacks, and anybody that tried to lightweight it, that, he had some bricks in his office to make up the difference. And that his 75 pounds would be more like 150. So, basically, we all, everybody's scared to death. We're literally weighing or trying to weigh these rucksacks and stuff, what I mean? 'Cause, we don't have scales and stuff. We don't know what's 75 pounds, 65 pounds, So, basically, everybody just gets it, as heavy as close as they think they can get it. And, so he marches us 20 miles 10, 20 miles to the gas chamber. And 75 pounds of gear on my back. And this is actually where I originally hurt my ankle that later on affected me during my Army intelligence training. Because whenever you're marching long distances in the Army, you kind of learn really quickly that it's better not to look forward. I don't know, just something about looking down and zoning out, it made the long distances go by faster for me. And because I have a photographic memory and stuff, like while we were marching, I would literally be rewatching a movie in my head. I know this is going to sound weird, or literally listening to a song in my head, just zoning out, And, well, I wasn't really paying attention, and as we were marching along, it's dark, by this point, because we've been marching for like an hour, and there's a hole in the concrete, and I don't see it, and I end up stepping into it, turns my ankle completely all the way backwards, and this will actually go into another story of how I got cussed out by an ER doctor and quite a few other people, and almost got my bosses cussed out my second week in the military. Yeah. And oh God, I should tell you about how they literally almost killed me my first day. Like, I had to be airlifted to Baptist North. Anyway, that's a different story. I don't want to tell all the good stories immediately, but let's just say the Army literally killed me. They literally killed me once before I went, and almost killed me twice. I'll put it like that, before I even went to basic training. So anyway, back to the story. So I ended up twisting my ankle around, and like, you understand, this drill sergeant was like Rambo, man, and they don't like take weakness well in basic training. So people who go to the doctor or sick call are very highly frowned upon. And I already had to have some wisdom teeth pulled during basic and stuff, so like I already had, this scheduled thing that I knew I was going to miss some training anyway. And So anyway, so I don't report it. Okay, so to finish off this story, we go to the gas chamber, and one thing that you quickly learn is these drill sergeants are pretty devious with their sense of humor, especially the real mean ones. And what they do is that they'll sit there and tell you stuff that if you're not intelligent, you know you're gonna fall for it, and it's stuff just to make things worse. Like they were telling soldiers that if you took rubbing alcohol and put it on your neck and skin and stuff like that, that the hand sanitizer, that it would make it to where your skin and stuff like that didn't burn so bad in the gas chamber, because this stuff literally burns your skin, your lungs, everything. Like every point of in your body gets burned. And well, that's just idiotic, because you know anybody that knows anything knows rubbing alcohol is just going to open up your pores. You know, so it makes it worse, way worse. You know, and on top of the rubbing alcohol probably burning your skin just by itself. And which we had all kinds of people playing tricks on people like that. We had one dude that literally had to go to the emergency room because he had brought Nair with him and decided that he didn't want no hair down there. I'll put it like that. And I don't know why, how, or whatever. The next morning we wake up, this dude's coming, you know, running out the bathroom, screaming and stuff, talking about, you know, he's got a rash all over. You know what I'm saying? And we know it's not STDs or anything because we all got tested before we went, you know. And what this idiot had done is he had taken Nair and put it on his genital areas and, like, caused a chemical burn. And he ended up having to go home. Like, we never saw him again. I don't even really know what happened to him. But, and that was the day after a dude swallowed a ball of aspirin. You know, trying to kill himself, but to be honest with you, a lot of people do that stuff just because they want to go home. And what's sad is you got 45 days from the time you get there to where you can back out of your contract and go home. And they don't tell you this until day 45. You know, what they do is they tell you that you're supposed to learn the Uniform Code of Military Justice. All right, I read it. I knew all this stuff before I went. 99% of the people didn't. So literally on day 45, that's when the drill sergeants come in there and they're like, hey, guess what today is? Today's the day you belong to me, you know. Like, that's when they tell you, it's like, oh, by the way, we didn't tell you. Yeah, you could have went home before now. You know, and that's when they let you know that, like, from this point on, you are U.S. government property and a pawn on a chessboard, you know, pretty much. Get used to it. So, anyway, so back to the gas chamber. They do all this stuff and, you know, to make it worse on people. And then on top of that, they make it so thick, the gas, you know, that you're already choking and stuff. And basically, I was trying to be slick. I basically held my breath, is what I did from the time I went in. And my drill sergeant had me take off my mask, you know, because basically he was going one by one, and you had to take off your mask, say the soldier's creed. And when you were done, and everybody was done, basically everybody could leave, and you know, you keep your hand on the dude in front of your shoulder. That's how much gas there is. Like, you literally have to keep your hand on the dude in front of your shoulder, otherwise you won't even see him, and you'll just get ran over by this stampede of 70 soldiers suffocating trying to get out the door. And so anyway, like, he sees that I'm not breathing, and he looks at me because he's got a gas mask on. There's so much noise he can't talk, but he points to his wristwatch and starts tapping on his wristwatch, basically telling me that, you know, my time's not going to start until I breathe, you know. So, like a true idiot, I just take in a full breath, and I immediately drop to the ground. Like I completely filled my lungs with CX gas. And I'm telling you, like, not to sound like a coward or anything, but if they would have waited 2 more seconds, and I'm not even exaggerating, 2 more seconds to let us out that building, I would have trampled over everybody in front of me to get out that door. That's how powerful the feeling of suffocation was. You know, and then to be extra jerks, they always put up like a fake tree or, you know, something right in front of the door. Or it's not really a door, it's kind of like these plastic flaps that you run out of, you know, and you can't see, but basically the first dude that runs out runs into this tree. He hits the tree and basically falls back. He, you know, basically creates like this domino effect, you know, where everybody ends up tripping and falling, you know, like literally almost half the platoon. And then you get outside and they tell you that whenever you're supposed to, the watering area where you wash yourself off, of course, is like half a football field away from where the gas chamber is. So they tell you that once you leave the building, that you're supposed to flap your arms like a bird. And keep in mind that, like, you've done taking in CX gas, so, like, every drop of mucus in your body is now being pushed out. Like, everybody's got snot down to the ground, coming out of their mouths, tears just pouring out. I mean, it's like everything's in overdrive. And so you got that going on with us flapping our arms like some crazy birds. And the drill sergeants over there with their cell phones just filming this shit, laughing their ass off. And that's when everybody realized that the flapping your arms, they said that the reason why you were supposed to do that is because the gas could build up on your uniform. And you're doing that to air it out. But it's stupid. It really was. Just one of the many ways that they, screwed with us. But, so anyway, yeah, so we had to march back, and basically like 3 days go by, and I still haven't went to sick call over my foot. And dude, I ain't gonna lie, like I drank the Kool-Aid, man. Like, I don't know how to put it. Like, I was believing what they were teaching, and there was no room for weak sauce in first platoon, as he put it. And just to give you an idea how strict our drill sergeant was, the third night he literally said, "Listen, there's a couple of y'all that just ain't gonna make it." Because we had people from every type of demographic you can think of. We had a 5 foot tall Puerto Rican DA agent. We had a dude that was 5 foot tall from South Korea that used to be a member of the Republic of Korea Army, known as the Rock Army. And, was in there to get his citizenship. We had another guy that was a 45-year-old English teacher that just decided one day, instead of retiring, he was going to go in the Army. We had a little piece of everybody, but about 30% of the platoon are 17 to 18-year-old boys that I don't know where they came from, because by the time when they get to basic training, they don't know how to shave, they don't know how to do nothing. And the drill sergeants having to get on to it. That's the thing that pisses off the drill sergeants more than anything, is the fact, like, the stuff they end up having to teach the kids have nothing to do with the Army. You shouldn't have to teach a kid about wearing proper deodorant or how to shave correctly. You know what I'm saying? Like going up the grain instead of, against the grain. That way you don't have stubble by 5 p.m., and things like shaving in the morning and not the night before. Because if you have stubble, like, drill sergeants carry around Bic razors, the cheapest, horrible ones you can get. And if you look like I look right now, and you're in uniform, you're liable to get stopped by a drill sergeant. He'll pull out that razor and make you dry shave. And I've seen soldiers' faces cut up, and yeah, they don't play about that. Like, that was one of my biggest problems, because I used to take showers before I went to bed. And I had to change that entirely in the Army, because, like I said, I would shave by 2 o'clock the next afternoon. "Barry, what's that face hair?" Next thing you know, I'm getting gigs and getting in trouble. And, luckily I never had to do the drive shave thing. But during one formation one morning, they did hold off the entire company, all 4 platoons, from going to breakfast while I went and shaved, because I did the night before, And it really wasn't even showing much. Like, all it was what little facial hair grew from the time I went to sleep to the time I woke up and went down the next morning. And we made the whole company miss breakfast over me, my mistake. And I never made that mistake again. And anyway, so back to the ankle injury. Like 4 days go by, and we do have to do training and stuff, but the running is what gets me on the track. Every morning we're having to run and everything. So by like day 4, my ankle was about the size of a ham, I guess you can say, like about that big around and completely purple. And the thing is, whenever you're wearing a uniform, you stuff your pants legs into your boots. So, except for when you put your boots on and take them off at the end of the night, you really don't even see your leg. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't even that purple by the time I got busted. But what ends up happening is our drill sergeant has to go somewhere one night or whatever, and we have this female drill sergeant that leads us to the chow hall. And basically, At this point, my leg was so swollen that I couldn't even march in step. I could barely walk, let alone march in step. And I still hadn't went to sick call. This is how brainwashed they get you, like, no lie. So they stopped the formation halfway through. The male drill sergeant that's with her starts going off on me at first, thinking that I'm just like not marching in formation or in step correctly. He's like, "What the fuck's wrong with you, Barry? What, you can't walk right? You can't even walk? What the fuck?" You know, just going off on me. But the female drill sergeant, who in her real job was a medic, walks over and says, "Private, lift up your pants leg." And I was scared to death, man, because I was scared that it was going to be a career-ending injury. You know what I mean? Like I was scared that they were going to make me either restart basic or it was going to be career-ending. And I was not going through basic again, so both of them were basically career-ending. Like, I was not going through that hell a second time. I would have took off through the woods. There's a reason why when you go to basic training, they make you duck your head down and don't even let you see the base as you drive by it, because soldiers will gone. And, you know, so like, it was the only time I ever refused an order. I said, "No, drill sergeant." And that's one word that disappears when you go in the military, is the word no. You might as well forget it, because you'll never use it. It's not an acceptable answer in any situation. And, you know, that's when she literally said, "Private, pull up your fucking leg now." And, pulled up my pants leg. She said, "Private, what the fuck?" She said, "I can take one look at this and tell this is several days old. How long have you been walking on this?" I said, "For about 4 days now, since the gas chamber." And she said, "Why didn't you report this?" And dude, I was so brainwashed, like, at the time, that I literally looked at her and said, "There's no weak sauce in 1st Platoon." And she looked at me like, like I was crazy. But, you know, that's how unified and hardcore we were at this point. I mean, this dude really, like, we had a very inspirational drill sergeant, I'll put it like that. Like I said, day 3, he literally said, "A couple of y'all ain't gonna make it," and said that I want everybody to pack their bags and leave them at the end of their bunks. "If I come and tap you on the shoulder tonight after lights out, I want you just to grab your bag and to form up at the parade ground below." He said, "I don't want you making noise. I don't want you to wake nobody up." And out of the 5 people he kicked out of our platoon, 3 did not graduate and ended up being at the ceremony. Because people who don't graduate go into a holdover platoon. And not only do they not graduate, but they don't get family day. They don't get to see their families. They don't get to, and they got to set up the chairs and stuff for the graduation ceremony. So after 26 weeks of this hell, I'm talking about just, oh my God, like, I don't know, whenever you graduate, it was the single greatest feeling I ever had. I'll put it like that. But next to the Holy Spirit, of course. But dude, I literally felt bad for him, man. Like, I've never, like, in public, almost started crying for another person before. But, you know, considering what I went through with my leg and stuff like that, and my, you know, how scared I was that I wasn't gonna make it, you know, like, I could just relate, I guess, you know. And so they end up getting the van, drive me to the hospital. I get cussed out by the registration nurse. Then the doctor comes in and proceeds to go off on me, you know, and not going off on me, but really going off on the situation, thinking that my drill sergeant just wouldn't let me come to sick call, you know. He's like, you know, "I'm sick of this shit." He said, "I'm sick of these soldiers sitting there and taking, you know, innocuous injuries, and them ended up being, you know, career-ending injuries because they refused to let their soldiers go to sick call." He's like, "Who's your captain? I'm calling your captain, and I'm cussing him the fuck out. I'm tired of this bullshit. I'm calling command sergeant major for the entire base." I'm sitting there just, like, heart to the ground, because this dude's like, I've never even met my first sergeant. And this dude's talking about calling the captain. You know what I'm saying? That's my boss's 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 boss. Okay, and on top of that, he's talking about contacting the command sergeant major for the entire base, and that's everybody's boss. You know what I mean? So I literally just broke down, like, please, no, it's not, you don't understand, Doc, you don't understand. I said, you just have to understand how 1st Platoon is. Like, I did not, you know, I was scared to death about being kicked out. I was scared to death about not, you know, about possibly being recycled. And that's when he said, well, he said, "We can do some x-rays and stuff." He said, "But I'm going to tell you, this is some severe damage." And he said, "I'll be amazed if you graduate, if you can pass your PT test." He said, "Because the damage the way it is, as soon as I run, it's going to swell up every single time." And So I just told him, I said, Doc, I just got to try, like just give me the stretching exercises, this, whatever, help me however you can. I said, because I'm either going to do this or I'm going to die trying. And, or they're going to have to kill me, one of the three. And he gave me some shoe inserts and a piece of paper with some stretching exercises. And, I did everything he said and barely got through basic. I mean, the only way I ended up passing basic training, I'm going to tell y'all something I've never told nobody. So listen up. God is the only reason why I graduated basic training with that leg injury. And I mean that in every sense of the word. What ended up happening is it's the final day of my PT test. And not only is my leg still swelling up like crazy and still hurting quite bad, but I had gotten sick, like stomach sick, 2 days before, and was still pretty nauseated from that. So my final PT test, the way it works is you have to run like 12 to 14 times around the track within whatever your time frame is. Mine was like 14 minutes and 2 seconds, I think is what it was. And so I broke it up into a math problem and knew basically that I had like 1 minute and 8 seconds every lap, and timed it to where every 3 or 4 laps I could walk for a little bit, and rest and still fall within the time frame. You know what I mean? So, well, I start to run and stuff. My ankle really starts giving out. The nausea literally gets so bad that I literally am like throwing up, having to like stop, throw up, and then continue running. And so at that point, like, I walked for a little bit, and all the other soldiers are screaming at me as they go by, "Baron, you're on fail. What are you doing? You're being weak, blah, blah, this and that." None of them knowing about the leg injury, especially, because I kept that to myself. And what ends up happening is whenever you complete a lap, you're supposed to walk by your drill sergeant or run by him, and you're supposed to say your last names, last 4 of your social, and what lap you've completed, drill sergeant. So basically, when you run by, completely out of breath, puking, everything, you're supposed to have the lung capacity to scream, "Baron, 4152, lap 3 completed, drill sergeant." And you got to say it to where he hears it. And if he don't say confirmed, then he didn't hear you, and you literally got to stop and turn around, "Drill sergeant, remember, And what ends up happening is, like, I get to like lap 6 and I look at my watch and I realize I'm not going to make it. Like, there's no way I'm going to be like 38. I knew exactly my time. I was going to be 38 seconds over. And what ends up happening is at the end of lap 7, and I swear to God I did not mean for this to happen. Whenever I ran past the drill sergeant, I screamed, "Baron, 8, my last 4, and lap 7 completed, drill sergeant." Lap 8, lap 8. And I stopped and realized immediately, like, oh my God, wait, no, I'm only on lap 7, because like I was freaking out, like I wasn't all there at this point, and I literally stopped and looked at the drill sergeant. He looks at me and says, "I said confirm, keep fucking going." And I took off running, and that I bought a lap. I mean, that's like if it was, and I literally finished with 42 seconds left to spare, no lie. And if it was not for that one weird mistake, I would not have graduated basic training, And so that's basically, where my ankle left off until I got to Fort Huachuca and had further issues. But how I ended up meeting Michelle Obama, to that part of the story. What ended up happening was, like, we knew that she was coming. Like, for one, they send a Secret Service advance team like a week in advance. And on top of that, like, we had to stop training. And every company has, like, a gun safe, right? With enough rifles and all that for the 2 or 3 platoons that are staying in that barracks. And because the First Lady was coming, they can't have any just firearms laying around. So not only did we have to clean every rifle on the base, like all of our rifles, and for the warehouse to accept it, it has to be spotless. And the way they check them is you can take a whole truck of rifles and they'll just randomly grab 2. If those 2 are dirty, they send back the whole fucking truck. No lie. And they did this to us twice. So we actually had to clean every gun 3 times. And then we had to take them to the central warehouse, which is this huge warehouse with just like thousands of machine guns, like all the equipment and just everything you could think of for war, and it's surrounded by like a barbed wire electrical fence with cameras and guards with machine guns and, the whole works. When you're entering the building, you definitely get the sense that this is a secure facility. So, based on all that, having to clean the guns and storm away and all that, we pretty much figured out that it was somebody like the president or the first lady, somebody coming. And that week was the week that we had Victory Forge, which is you're in the middle of your training where the first time you go and basically stay in the woods for a couple of days. We stayed for 5. Most only stay for 3. At the end of the 5 days, right before we go on Victory Forge, you have to understand, whenever I went to basic training, my drill sergeant told me that basically just get through it, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't try to set yourself out, don't volunteer for nothing. His best advice to me was to find the biggest, tallest dude in my platoon and stand behind him the whole time. And if I graduate without my drill sergeant knowing my name, I did good. And, like I said, if you set yourself out, then you're the one getting volunteered for everything. You're the one that's, gets all the crap duty. So, right before Victory Forge, my drill sergeant had been like switching up the platoon guides, the guys that stand next to the platoon and go left, 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 right, left. Well, I never wanted to do that because they also sing songs and all that, and I don't know, it just seemed retarded to me. Even though it is kind of good to pass the time as you're marching, but I didn't want to be the dude singing cadence, So I hadn't volunteered for nothing, and all of a sudden, like the day before we leave for Victory Forge, we're in formation. My drill sergeant comes up to me, and the person I stood behind was this girl. Actually, her name we called her Big Country, and he literally like calls me out in front of the whole platoon. He's like, "Baron, quit hiding behind fucking Country's ass in front and center." And I get up to the front of the formation, and I'm like, Baron reporting drill sergeant, and he's like, Baron, you know what? You ain't volunteered for shit. He's like, since we started this, you ain't volunteered for nothing. You ain't done nothing. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to make you a platoon guide. We're going to make you head of 1st platoon. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm immediately trying to think of ways to get out of it because I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do this. And he actually did it as a form of punishment because, like I said, I didn't volunteer for anything. And they were still pissed off at me about my ankle. Yeah, they were very angry about that. Even though they're the ones that, like, put it in your head not to go to sick call and all that. Sure enough, once they got bitched at for my ankle, that next thing you know, I'm getting bitched at because I didn't go to sick call. Like, Anyway, so we end up going to Victory Forge, and all week long, he will not make anybody else platoon guide, and just basically has me singing cadence, and basically just taking all kinds of fun and initiative out of screwing with me. And what ends up happening is, whenever we come back from Victory Forge, the First Lady's there. And it was like the day before, she, visited, I had the tour and all this and that, and she ended up visiting all the different parts of the base and ended up eating lunch with us in the dining facility. And so basically the way that I ended up meeting the First Lady was just a crazy coincidence because my drill sergeant was punishing me. And he had made me platoon guide. Well, whenever the First Lady came, they had arranged it where all the platoon leaders got to eat lunch with her. So the day we get back is the day of the lunch. And even though my drill sergeant at first was like, Baron ain't gonna let you go, because, you ain't been volunteering for shit, you ain't been displaying leadership, all this. And I'm like, dude, I'm, no offense, I'm not 16 Bravo, I'm Intel. Like, our job is not the type where, I'm gonna be kicking indoors and stuff. I'm gonna be the dude behind the computer in the air-conditioned room. I don't need all this Rambo crap, like, I'm just here to graduate, And, so he almost wasn't going to let me go, but they'd already sent the names, to him. They'd already done the clearances on us. Like, you can't just, like, switch up the person that's eating with the First Lady at the last minute. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just was out of his hands. So very pissed off about it. I ended up getting to eat with the first lady, and it's crazy because like whenever we come in there, we've been out in the field all week eating hot A's and MREs, and we go into the dining facility and they got lobster and steak, and oh man, it was so good. And like I said, we've been eating MREs like all week long, and with the occasional hot A's, which is they'll actually send a meal out to you in the field, but it's usually something just like steamed chicken with cinnamon on it with some green peas or something like that. Like it's something very plain and simple, and you get so tired of eating chicken, like you really do. And so basically, like, no offense, I didn't vote for Obama, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was cool meeting the first lady, but, like, I was more focused on the steak and the lobster tail, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's my thing, and at this point, I really wish that I wouldn't even been one of the ones that was chosen to eat with her, because, like, if you actually pull up the CNN footage, you'll see me kind of to the right, and everybody else, like, is sitting at attention, is what they call it, and nobody's eating. And I'm like, well, fuck that, dude. Like, I didn't vote for them. I'm not finna miss my steak and lobster tail. Like, so, like, what you see is a whole table of soldiers sitting at attention and one dude just tearing into this fucking steak like a madman. And this girl next to me starts, like, elbowing me and shit. And I'm just like, listen, dude, like, she might be the first lady, but she's a person just like me. She puts her pants on one leg at a time just like me. If I ain't gonna get, if I ain't gonna get embarrassed doing briefings in front of 3-star generals, I'm not gonna get embarrassed being in front of the first lady. So the girl like starts elbowing me, and I finally like in front of the first lady, and I was just like, stop, because like she was getting on my nerves. And so the first lady, not noticing any of this, thank God, basically we start making small talk, and like they're just being retarded. They're all nervous and asking stupid questions and stuff. Like one dude asked, oh, so you're not going to eat with us, Madam President? Well, of course not, man. The White House chef cooks our food, dude. What? Anyway, she basically was very polite about it, mentioned how she had eaten deer chili that the Secret Service made her, and this and that, blah blah. And so the next question was something to do with her nutrition program that she was doing in schools. She basically asked us our opinions on how we could implement better nutrition in schools, similar to what the military has, you know what I'm saying, and that keeps us in shape. And, they're all like giving, stupid answers that, just kiss ass answers. Like one girl, two of them said, I don't know. Like two of them were they were strong soldiers, but they weren't very smart. The one girl says something along the lines of, by continuing to push your policies through, and basically is kissing her ass, telling her how much they like her policies and this and that. And you can tell this girl probably don't even know what the hell the policy is. And so it comes around to me, and I'm like thinking to myself, well, I can give a politically correct answer, or, one thing staying in history like I have that you run into in the White House a lot reading about presidents and stuff is that one thing you will never hear people be in the White House is honest. So I figured maybe I should just be honest and, tell her what I really think. And, maybe that'll be refreshing, So my answer when she came to me was, I said, increase subsidies into vegetables. That way salads at McDonald's won't be twice as much as a cheeseburger. I said, as long as single parents have to make a choice between a $1.99 Happy Meal and a $4.99 salad, their kids are always going to eat junk. She told me that she thought it was a very intelligent answer. She seemed cool about it. I ended up getting bitched up on my drill sergeant later on for being too, open, I guess, or whatever. But, like, she told me she thought it was a very intelligent answer, And to me, that's the truth, Like, it's not about, the parents are wanting to feed their kids poison. It's just the poisons are what's the cheapest, Like, instead of putting all the subsidies in soy so that we can have gasoline, cheaper, and, so they can put more ethanol in gasoline, which screws up our engines anyway, how about we put subsidies back on vegetables instead of paying farmers not to grow vegetables? And, Arkansas is literally the biggest rice producer in the world, next to Korea. I think we're even more than Korea now. Why the hell are our people starving? You know what I'm saying? Like, we produce the most rice in the world, and our people are starving. Like, what the hell? Makes no sense, But that's the reason why. It's because we export what we do grow, and most internal produce and stuff like that, they actually pay farmers not to grow. That way that they can keep the business flow constantly going from, whatever foreign country they're buying that product from, Not very much sense in our trade policy. There really isn't. So that's pretty much how I ended up meeting the First Lady. One thing I will say is that the Secret Service do not look like in real life what they look like on movies. In movies, they always have this like FBI looking, I don't know how to put it, like they look like they all came from the FBI. Not one of them looked like that. Every single one of them was huge, stocky, buzz cut, looked like they just came from the Special Forces. Every single one looked like a Navy SEAL in an Armani suit, pretty much. And that's what they were wearing. They were all in these real nice, like, Armani suits. You could tell that they had, probably a little submachine gun or a pistol underneath, ready to go. And, of course, they gave us, the platoon the whole speech about, I don't care if you want to make a political statement or whatever, don't be stupid because the Secret Service will put you in the back of the car and there's nothing we can do. And, basically telling us, don't try to get on CNN pretty much, by doing something stupid. And, like I said, she was a very nice lady. She talked about how she exercised every morning, how she thought it was unfair that the Secret Service wouldn't let her run around the White House, but they let Bill Clinton every day. That was one comment she made. And Bush, was also able. She said that they forced her to stick to a treadmill, and because we ended up talking about her exercise routines, and she mentioned that every morning, she runs like 3.5 miles and stuff like that, and she basically keeps up a military-grade fitness routine. She really does, which explains why she's so skinny too. Like on TV, she looks skinny, but I'm telling you, in real life, she is skinny. I'm talking about the type of person where you can almost see her heart beating. Like, skinny. Very, very polite, though. Like, really had this Jacqueline Kennedy type, look to her. I don't know how to put it. Very genteel, very, refined. I'll put it like that. She was a good First Lady. She really was. But see, the downside to her program is that she was fighting childhood obesity. And because she decided to join all these military bases, I guess somewhere down the line somebody got the idea that it would be a good idea for the Army to start feeding its people nothing but, low-calorie, nutritious food. Which is so idiotic because we burn, so many calories that if we ate healthy food, we wouldn't have enough calories. We would die, So all of a sudden they start feeding us, every day we go in the dining facility, and I ain't gonna lie, the entire Army hated Michelle Obama for 6 months. Hated her. And weren't too fond of Obama, especially whenever he shut the federal government down and we didn't get paid for a month. That was another thing that did not make him very popular. It actually happened twice during my term in the military, where the president shut down the federal government and basically we didn't get paid. Well, we got it later on, but basically, it's just fend it for yourself till we, the Republicans and Democrats get it together. But, they sure kept their lights on, But, it's just messed up because these families, whose husbands are deployed overseas and all that, all of a sudden have to go to, charity groups and stuff to get their light bill paid, because the Republicans and the Democrats can't agree on a budget, And whenever they come up with the emergency people that should be paid, of course the senators still get paid. Of course the Washington D.C. buildings stay open. Of course all the federal buildings stay open. Post office stays open. Soldiers, nah, we ain't got to pay them. Something I've highly disagreed with for a long time. So I've seen so many families have to scramble at the last minute because you can't. Most bill collectors are really understanding, especially if it's a military family. But making a woman who's already not seen her husband for 6 to 8 months because he's deployed have to go beg a charity to get her light bill paid is just screwed up. It really is. I mean, anyway, I'm getting on a different subject. So, and I know I was going to talk about the 2011 Monument Fire, but this story actually carried in too long, so I'll leave that one for later. But I'll tell you this much, though. Standing on top of a mountain, seeing a 8-mile wide forest fire that's 3 miles long, and seeing 8,000 firefighters with 4,000 soldiers and about 20 helicopters and 5 planes constantly dropping stuff on the fire, and Mother Nature just laughing at you. Like, oh my God, man. We threw everything. Mankind threw everything we had. It was every smoke jumper, every firefighter, every soldier in a training facility from Arizona, Nevada, and California, and Texas was there. Like 5 states worth of firefighters fighting this brush fire, and like Mother Nature laughed at us until God showed up on the last day. That's one thing I will definitely say is I've been very privileged being in the presence of several miracles in my life. Yeah, I really have. But anyway, so I'll just leave the story there. That's how pretty much I met the First Lady and ended up on CNN for about 20 seconds. And it's good though, because now, you know, it's always good to put on the resume that, you know, you ate lunch with the First Lady. But anyway, y'all have a good night.